GITSUMONYA! Or however you say that. We're taking on the tourney. We're going back to Little Rock and we're going to take back the crown. Or at least that's what I keep telling myself. This is it. I have painted an entire infantry army for this tourney, and I'm going up against Killer Bear, a longtime GITSUM member, in his Soviet Tankovy. No, I'm not kidding at all. I ended up painting this entire army just for this tourney. And looking back, I don't think I would do that again. It was 1,900 points of trained infantry. I must not have got a lot of sleep when I decided that I was going to do that. But yet, here we are. I've actually had a lot of practice games with this infantry. Unfortunately, I didn't really record most of them because half the infantry was painted. And I try to keep some sort of ground rule that if I'm going to film something, it needs to be of a professional caliber. You know, you'd at least have a couple colors on the miniature, not just, you know, a bunch of silver surfers. I really can't stand that. And as such, I have learned that defense in depth is the name of the game. I can afford to take losses, and because they get that nasty enjoy the war on a 2+, I can afford to throw a lot of infantry away and then just ambush or deploy a thicker line of infantry and just let them have to go through the second one. And because I've got more Panzerfaust than I do candy at this point, I can afford to just let the tanks crash into the infantry. But of course the Soviet tanks, they were on their A game this time around as they open up with their machine guns and kill 4 stands right out the gate. That's not good. So he moves in for the assault, crashing into the trees, and the T-34s make nearly all their bog checks. I do not have enough Panzerfaust shots to put him back, but I do manage to kill a couple tanks. He goes to motivate, and though he might be fearless, not today as he gets busted back. 3 infantry stands, pushed back everything. And so the German turn starts, and we immediately get our reserves as the King Tiger, modeled by an E-100, starts moving in. And again, we're not going to get too aggressive with them. We're going to let the Tiger tank sit back, just take some shots, take care of the problem. Again, defense in depth after it has become a problem. Let the infantry earn their iron crosses before we start risking the valuable German equipment. I begin moving the training tanks, essentially what they are, the SS Panzer IIIs, up across the hill. We're going to try to engage the S-100s at range. Yeah, you do the math on that one. Those of you that can figure out what the exchange rate will be like, you get all the points, all the internet points, because I regret doing it. Nonetheless, I think they're a very characterful tank. They do manage to take a shot. I do believe they bag one T-34, but most of the damage was done by the reluctant Volks artillery firing off those 15-centimeter guns. I wrote them off. They were kind of cheap. They're reluctant. I'm not going to expect him to do anything. But he doesn't have as much template weapons as I thought, and he's more eager in destroying the Luftwaffe anti-aircraft guns that are sitting in front of him than he is trying to just pin the artillery, which is actually something at the end of the game, something he really regrets not doing. But nonetheless, the heavy Soviet mortar is an effective gun. I like it. He doesn't end up doing any kind of damage with it. The Su-100s, however, do, as they turn around and just plaster the Panzer IIIs. Again, not the greatest moment. I don't claim to be a brilliant strategist, but hey, I do what I can. T-34s, once again, gets remotivated to move in and assault that infantry. I say, no, I don't know. I don't really want to motivate, but he's able to rope everyone in anyway, so I decided, fine, if I have to do this, let's go ahead and rope in as much infantry as we can, and we do. We let the Tiger II just sit out there and monitor the situation as the infantry get ground into a fine German paste, but in result, we managed to kill a couple more tanks. Oh, it's so great! And in the result, the fearless tanks decide it's better to be fearless back in the motherland because they rout! They don't even stick around on the field as the German infantry, even though they've been destroyed to literally 2 stands. Even though I put a lot of extra stuff in them, like extra Panzer Shreks to just, you know, inflate their numbers, but they all died in the initial machine gun volley. Dug in, no less. Go figure. Well, this is great. This is great. I destroyed the 10-strong Soviet tank group. They don't have their CIC on the board. His CIC is actually in reserve. He's going to pop onto the board with his other tanks. And I decide we got to go for a company break. We got to go for a company break down now. And I start go ahead and continuing to put the Panzer IIIs against the Su-100s. And they managed to bail one, but actually I do believe the Tiger II bails him. Doesn't manage to kill it. Tank commander decides to go ahead and move around. They do not have German mission tactics or anything interesting, and he gets stuck on the other student tank, or the SS tank. That's not great. But the Tiger II is doing what it needs to do. It needs to sit back at range, just find a target, and just leisurely, take pot shots, because, at range you can't really do anything. Just don't get aggressive with the Tigers, I found. Try to stick around at long range as some kind of sniper, or better yet, as some sort of aid for infantry. That top armor 2 and the extra machine guns can move around pretty quickly. And, of course, they also back Su-100s just as easily. We continue to let the artillery rain hellfire and brimstone everywhere we can. We start moving the artillery over to the mortars, so that we can pin those guys down. I managed to kill 2 of those as well. Go 15 centimeters! But he sees what's up. He's trying to change his tactics. He's moving the Spetsnaz forward to try to take on the Luftwaffe anti-aircraft guns. Because maybe you can get a point out of that. I got 9 platoons, so it's going to be rough. But nonetheless, the Soviet infantry do show up as reserves on their side of the board on the north end. That's a problem. The objective doesn't go live for a little while, but it's still a problem. So we begin moving the Panzer IIIs back to take care of that. The Tiger II even begins moving over there. We can't leisurely take pot shots at other tanks anymore. We need to contend with the possibility that I need to use those machine guns and top armor 2 to assault the infantry. I mean, it might work out, right? I mean, it could be worse. And I'm loath to moving infantry out in the open. But I begin getting all the infantry out of their foxholes, start hunkering around the buildings in the middle of the board, and begin contemplating having to assault them out there. Even the artillery is starting to light up the Soviet infantry, and they're so close together. It's great. We're killing them left and right, but there's so many of them. It's going to take some time. The German training school teacher moves his tank out. Again, he finally unfrees himself from the wreckage of his students. Moves out over there into the river. Gets stuck again. The man just doesn't want to fight. And luck would have it in the beginning of the next Soviet turn 4, we still haven't activated the objectives, but they got the other T-34s. Okay, that's a problem. That is a serious problem. I can kill tanks pretty quickly, but I can't kill them all in 2 turns. I need to start getting really, really risky. He begins moving the Spetsnaz forward. Again, he's moving them into an anti-aircraft gun line, which surprisingly the Luftwaffe has been on their A game. They're really motivated to be here. Despite being reluctant, they keep getting up. Now, there's not a whole lot I can really do in this particular situation. I begin, again, hammering the infantry with all the artillery I can, because he has both objectives under his control. I let the Luftwaffe guns open up on the Spetsnaz in front of them and absolutely emaciate them. And then I open up the Panzerfaust trap teams, opening them up in a very particular way so that they can fire off their Panzerfaust and then assault into the tanks. That's what I'm hoping for. And I really do like those trap teams. They're really cool. Every match that I played, and I've revealed it to my opponent, they thought, that, oh, that's neat. That's pretty awesome. And they're just neat little speed bumps. In most lists, I wouldn't put a whole lot of faith in them. They're cheap for a reason. German infantry move up. We're very careful to try to avoid the death gaze that would be 10 T-34s. And we're just, well, actually it's 11 T-34s because they got their CIC with them. And we end up just hiding everywhere we can. Turn 4, I really got to start considering that I need to assault them into the open. I begin using the artillery. Again, we're thinning out as much as we can. I throw the infantry into them. Luftwaffe guns open up on the Spetsnaz. They successfully identify them, blow them the hell away, and then they decided, let's go somewhere else. Meanwhile, on the other side of the board, all the T-34s light up the one Panzer tank that's out there to try to stop them. So now we got All this infantry pinned the hell down because that is a lot of machine gun dice that they're throwing around. And there's just nothing we can do about it. But the Panzer team leader finally decides to get up and do something. I guess when death is on the line, he wants to do his job. Panzerfaust teams ended up being useless as the tank panned his turret and lit them both up. And that was it. So the Soviets begin consolidating their position. They just gotta hold on. They're losing tanks at a prodigious rate as the 15-centimeter artillery, completely unpinned, is just wrecking shit for the Soviets. I love those guns right now because, you know, reluctant vet, I mean, they're great. They're not ranging in on the first time. As a matter of fact, if I recall correctly, they never do. They only range in on the third time. But, you know, 5+ when you got like 6 or 7 under the template, I'll take that. Now, of all the ratings on the board, I am very reluctant to send my infantry out there. He's already lighting up all the infantry out there in the open, just as he should, but this isn't the time that I need to really be considering about the amount of losses. I'm about to lose the game. Once turn 6 comes around and he's ready and rocking, I'm going to have a whole lot of problems. The German mortars just showed up. Just a little too late to be able to do anything, but at least we're going to have smoke for the inevitable follow-up turn because I am waiting for the artillery to thin out their Soviet units, but it's just not doing it fast enough. I do move the infantry forward in such a way to contest the objective, and he managed to lose, or at least selectively lose, all the casualties in such a way that I can't assault him this turn. It would have been ugly this particular turn because he wouldn't have had much defensive fire. Actually, it might have actually gone through. It's a clever play, an incredibly clever play that is a game-winning move in some cases. This is the moment. This is the do-or-die moment. We begin smoking the tanks, move the infantry over the hill. We're going to take on the Soviet tanks. And this has got to work on both ends. We got to push the tanks off and we got to kill the infantry. We move into the assault for the Tiger IIs on the northern end to take on the Tankovy, and he swings, he misses, they motivate, they counterattack, and the Panzerfaust team kills a Tiger II. Oh, killed by our own equipment. It was rough. Rough. We go ahead and follow up the infantry assault to see what had happened. He turns around, pans, fires, pushes the assault back. That was it. That was the game. And at that point, it's game. Solid win for the Soviets. It is a 4-3 win for them. 3-4 loss for the Waffen-SS, but it is not necessarily an auspicious start. Anytime I can make what is essentially an average play, any 4-3 or 3-4, is going to be, it's respectable. This would end up being his bloodiest game for the entire tourney, and he would lament not pinning that reluctant artillery when he had the chance. Because the mortars could see them every now and then. But I digress. This has been an Ouchies Batrep, and thanks for watching.
Stink Soul 6. No, you.